How has education changed in your country in the last 10 years? I live in a developing country where the education sector went through numerous changes, including the government's more fund allocation in education, more women enrollment in higher studies, changes in academic syllabus, etc. During the last 10 years, the most significant change that has happened in the education sector in my country is the people's mentality regarding the necessity of education. Only 20-30 years back, many parents showed little interest in sending their kids to school. But that has radically changed in my country, and nowadays almost every parent sends their children to school. This is a giant leap in my opinion in terms of the advancement of our education. The government allocated a share portion of its budget to ensure the school's infrastructure, study materials and salary of the teachers, and that has been proven effective to build a solid ground to make an education nation. Only in the last 5 years, our literacy rate has almost doubled, and I give a major credit to the government for ensuring free education in primary level, special scholarship and monetary rewards to women students. I am not 100% sure about the exact statistics, but my best guess would be that more than 200-300 colleges and universities have been established in the last few years. We had only 4 or 5 engineering university back in 2000, but we have more than 30 such educational institutions now. More importance has been given to vocational education, and thus a large number of underprivileged populations have come under the vocational education system. In a nutshell, that was a massive change, and I have witnessed some of those changes in my own eyes, including how public exams quality have been improved, how the schools are emphasizing on English and mathematics as academic subjects, and so on and on. What changes do you foresee in the next 50 years? If you ask me about the type of changes that might occur in the education sector in my country in next 50 years, I would need to rely on my own past experience and predictions mostly. My best guess is that the education would be more practical than theoretical in future. Women's participation and performance in education would excel to a great extent. More women would be in research and higher education than their male counterpart. The education would be expensive, and private education institutes would be more demanding than the public and state-owned ones. More foreign students would come to study here, and the number of higher education institutes would increase by many-fold than the current number. The digitalization and computer-based education system would replace many traditional education systems, and the online education would be a very popular form during that time. Curriculum and subject offered in the college and education level would see a dramatic increase, and technology would be the most important and demanding subject in this era. Not sure if I will be alive or not to see the changes, but I hope many positive changes within the next 50 years in my country, including 100% literacy rate, more engineering and research-based education system. Some of our universities are ranking in the world's best university list, and we are renowned as a country of a very excellent place for education. A national education system. How do the expectations of today's school leavers compare with those of the previous generation? Well, the school quitters nowadays are expected to study further and get involved in a part-time job to gain practical experience. The job market is pretty competitive compared to the previous time. Getting a good job requires talent, some practical experience, good grades in school, and many other criteria. The competitions in public service or government jobs are even higher. In the past decades there were very few school graduates in my country, and hence securing a job both in public and private sector was not that tough. The requirement is education is higher than the past. 12-class degree is not enough to get a decent job. Recruiters are looking for candidates with prior job experiences and at least bachelor degree. Thus the school leavers nowadays have no other option but to continue their studies. Getting a part-time job besides the study is a dream for many. I heard from my grandfather that there were only few bachelor degree holders in his whole village, while there must be more than 100 bachelor degree holders in a single community these days. Those who leave school without completing the course have no other option but to either look after their family business or manage a job where physical labor is the only skill that he has. The population in my country has almost doubled in the last decade, and that is pretty obvious that the completion the school leavers nowadays face is tremendous. Among the school leavers, many decide their major in college or university while other prefers vocational education. This facility was very narrow in my grandfather's generation, as I know. So I would say there is a whole lot of difference between current and past generations in terms of their opportunity, action and plan after leaving school. What role do you think extracurricular activities play in education? Extracurricular activities sharpen the minds of students and enhance their creativity. Activities that require physical movements keep their body fit, and thus the importance of extracurricular activities are immense. It is often experienced that kids who have interests in sports and games outperform the others in many fields. Extracurricular activities like singing, debating, painting can be very handy in terms of career enhancement. Students who have extracurricular activities possess better leadership and social activities. Finally, from my experience, I can say that such students have better knowledge about the world than students who are solely focused on academic lessons. Different styles/methods of teaching and learning. What method of learning works best for you? I prefer to work in a pair for the complex topics and subjects. The group discussion, in particular, works best for me. When I study in a group, I can discuss my views and learn opinions of others. Thus the discussion is always helpful, and I can better perform in an exam and remember the details for a long. How beneficial do you think it is to group students according to their level of ability? A. It's always beneficial for students to make a group for study and discussion. If the group comprises students of similar caliber and talent levels, they are proven to be more helpful. Similar abilities of students in a group can be advantageous from mainly 2 points of view. They are more frank to participate in any discussion, and they have a good understanding among themselves. Secondly, they understand each other better and can advise in an effective way. If a group is formed with different levels of students, there is a chance that a really talented student would get bored with the silly discussions by the others, while a dull student among really talented group mates would not dare to opine whenever he likes. School and young. What should be the right age to leave school? Why? It's a very good question, and thanks for asking me. Currently, there is no straight answer for this question because the age limit to leave the school varies in regions. Generally, a boy or a girl gets admitted to school at the age of 5 or 6, and to complete their higher secondary they have to spend about 10 years. If they have to drop 1 or 2 years for different reasons, the age limit increases. This is not my personal observation or opinion, rather this is the system. But I have a different point of view over the age limit. I think when the kids will be teenagers or enter into their teenage, they should be released from the school. Right at that moment, they get accustomed to a wide range of things and issues, while the curriculums are not made with their growth structure. When they are accustomed to the real world, they want to know a large number of issues, but their teachers, parents or the surrounding environments do not allow them to learn more than the prescribed books, texts or courses. So, their desire to learn remains unfulfilled. But if they are released from the schools and allowed to get admitted into a college, then I think their desire for knowledge will be met to some extent. Curiosity is the key element for them in the teenage, and due to a backward educational system in a majority of the countries, they are deprived of the right knowledge at the moment when they needed it most. When they will be promoted to upper level after their school, they would be able to cope with the surrounding environment and also would be fit to battle the challenges ahead. At what age do you think young people are ready to confront life challenges? A very good question. I think that 16 is a standard age for someone to be fit enough to battle with the challenges of life. When a boy or girl turns into 16, he experiences different situations in their life which make them vigorous, and by the same time they gather the necessary experiences and knowledge to survive. In fact, survival is only for the fittest, and when in 16 they start surviving by themselves, there are many chances for them to survive in better conditions in near future. When a boy or girl is 16, they physically become stronger. Their physical fitness is the most important factor for them to survive in the world beyond their home. They become fit for everything. In this age, they can start learning activities in line with their academic studies. I have seen many people who have started earning at an early age and also have continued their studies, and now they are on the summit of success in their respective arena. I think you will also have the same opinion that life is filled with challenges. When we are kids, we do not need to think of the challenges as our parents take care of us. But when we grow up, it is important for us to take our own responsibility. It helps to reduce stress from the parents. Moreover, it makes us fit to confront life. Life does not go the same always. There are ups and downs in life, and if we do not experience the issues at an early age, later it would be very complicated for us to sustain. Do you like hosting parties or going out for parties? Yes, I like to host parties. But sometimes I like to attend parties as well arranged at my friends' places. Arranging a party tough is a bit difficult. I enjoy that most. The most important part of the party is shopping, and I spent the entire morning at different shops and stores to collect the necessary stuff. Sometimes, I invite a couple of my friends to participate in the shopping and they happily accompany me. The other important thing is the permission from my family members, and since I also invite them, they cheerfully make the sacrifice for me. The enjoyable moments are when the friends and other invited guests arrive and start the party. However, I become truly glad when they adore the foods prepared by me. It is true that I have to clean the entire house after the party is over. What are the most popular programs/courses students choose to participate in? Why? Thanks for the question. There are several programs where students want to participate. But the most important fact is that the program should be out of their academic activities. I don't know why they act so, but I think they do not find any interest in the academic activities. But sometimes it appears that the educational system does not allow them to do what they prefer to do, while the extracurricular activities have a different charm where they can break the rules. Since they have the chance to go beyond the prescribed rules and regulations, they like the activities better than their academic studies. When I was a student, the same things happened to me for several times, and I have seen many of the students participating in different extracurricular activities. It made me laugh that they become failure to secure the least marks to pass for a course, while some of the failure students were winners in different competitions like debate, sports, etc. Therefore, I think the students find less interest in their academic books, and thus they tend to participate more in other activities. Studying English. 3. What problems do you have when studying English? Well, English is a foreign language to me, and as a French national this is a bit difficult for me to pronounce the perfect English. When I try to speak English, I cannot make the right pronunciations. Besides, my English reading skills are not up to the mark and filled with some local tones. Besides, during the conversations, I cannot speak fluent English. This is a challenge for me to study English. I cannot participate in the conversations with the native English speakers, which is embarrassing for me to a great extent. Moreover, when I am to write something in English, I have grammatical errors in the texts. Sometimes it appears that the meaning is entirely changed when I start writing. So, I try to read some English newspapers and then start writing like them. But all the time I cannot write a good form of English for the grammar issue. Vocabulary plays a great role in studying English. Being a non-native English learner, my vocabulary is so poor that I lost words during the conversation or writing. Sometimes I cannot realize the meaning of the words and then seek the words into English dictionaries and reference books and then get the meaning of the sentences or contexts I go through in different texts. With the extensive vocabulary and complicated grammar system, sometimes I am at a loss what to do or say in situations. So, I am afraid sometimes that I would not be able to learn English properly. Further, my listening skill is also weak. I cannot differentiate between words pronounced similarly like walk or work, sun or sun, to and to etc. As a result, I often misunderstand the words and it takes more time for me to realize the real meaning. The most troublesome part for me is to reply to someone after hearing any conversation. Whatever the troubles are, I try hard to study English and will never give up trying until I grow the four skills: reading, writing, listening and speaking perfectly. Do you think that English is the most important language in the world? It's a difficult question to answer. I think English is the widely used language among the non-native speakers. This has gained the status of the best language and also is termed as the international language, for it is used by millions of speakers around the world. They use English for communication and effectively they are being served for the purpose of communication. When people of different nations come together in a place and they need to communicate with each other, they cannot use any language other than English. Learning English increases your skills as a bilingual and as a result, your acceptance also increases in everywhere. You can use the language in any part of the world if you are unaware of the language of that specific region. Almost all the available information in computer and the sector of technology are written with English. Each of the higher study fields is documented with English. This language has been being used for long and I think even before the age of colonization. In the present world, the people in all parts of the planet are familiar with the language and have adopted it as their second language. So, when the people of different nations meet together, they can share their cultures and values with each other that help people to learn about newer things, which one of the important benefits of English language. Besides, if you want to improve yourself in the modern age and want to use science for your betterment, you are to make friendship with the English language. Further, English is easier to learn than learning most other languages as it has only 26 alphabets. In your private life, English helps you enhance your opportunity to read books, watch movies etc. For instance, if you know English, you can use the social networking websites. If you know English, you would be able to watch movies without subtitles. If you know English, you will have the chances to get a better job with a better salary. So, I think for all those reasons, English is considered as the most important language in the world. What other languages are taught in your country? In France, the government is trying to make it a multilingual country and accordingly has started activities to make people familiar with different languages. The educational system of France also encourages learning several languages. Usually, English is preferred everywhere in line with the French language. Since the country is enlisted with some of the international bodies, few other continental languages are also taught here like Italian, German, and Dutch etc. The government is willing to make a country a multicultural one and accordingly tries to promote cultures of different levels. Besides, some other languages like Arabic, Chinese, Turkish, Hindi, Urdu etc. are also exercised in the country due to the populations of those states. Mostly the languages are taught in schools and there are some other language training institutes as well who provide with the service for the people who want to learn. As a result, you can find people speaking different languages and it is not a surprise. But often it becomes a bit of troublesome for the people to communicate with the other nations when they are unaware or unfamiliar with the languages they are asked to use. Interestingly, learning English at the primary level is a must for all the students and it helps to make them stronger in using English in their real-life situations. Do you think that age is the most important factor of learning English? Why? Yes, I do think so because age has many things to do with learning a language. Age is considered as the most important factor for learning a language, especially the English language. In general, people learn a language in two ways, and one of those is termed as explicit learning while the other one is known as the implicit learning. The implicit learning is the process in which we learn our mother tongue, and in the explicit learning process, we need to learn the language consciously. Explicit learning is a conscious process and different approaches are followed to master the language. So, when it is about learning the English language, we need to learn in implicitly, which also refers to the natural learning process. In this way, we learn a language like we are taught our mother tongue. But when you have crossed your puberty, it is expected that you would not be able to learn the language in an explicit manner. I mean, you cannot learn it naturally. You have to learn the language. You have to learn the rules and manners of the language. You are to be aware of the imposing of the rules in the right places. You are to learn about grammar, sentence construction, and more other grammar issues which are in fact hard to maintain in the adult age. As a result, when you are set to use the language in your real-life situations, there are chances that you may fail to communicate effectively with your counterparts. So, I think the tender age is the most appropriate time to learn a language, and if you want to learn English, you need to start early. Besides, if you have kids under 13, it is imperative to start teaching the language. Whenever they will cross the 13, it would be tougher for them as well to master the language perfectly. What difficulties would a foreigner have when he learns your native language? It's a great question. It is a bit troublesome for the foreigners to learn French, and if they try for a longer period, it is expected that they could learn the language properly. The most common forms of troubles are mispronunciations of the words and spelling of words. Sometimes the non-native speakers cannot get the perfect accent with the words. People who are entirely unskilled and unfamiliar with the alphabets, it is a bit difficult for them to begin with the language. Moreover, being a fluent speaker in French, it takes more time. Whenever you are going to speak the language, you will discover some sort of unintentional mistakes. Making singular and plural in this language may appear a bit interesting to the foreign speakers. The accents may seem harder to them in the beginning unless they are aware of the basics. What would problems people in your country have when communicating with foreigners? Actually, there are no notable problems in communicating with the foreigners. Most of the French people are now well aware of the communication with the foreigners, and as the second language, they use English to reach the other people. Though a majority of the French people cannot speak the perfect English, they could continue their communication in an effective manner. But there are some other French people who can speak the perfect form of British English, and you cannot differentiate if they are British or French when they speak English. The dialect and pronunciation they use belong to the natives British. Sometimes there are few misunderstandings with the people regarding communications, but the repetition of the statements twice or thrice makes it clearer and the communication is perfect. When would be most suitable for children to learn English? I think when the children are in their first grade, that is the perfect time to start them teaching English. When they are in their tender age, they can adopt whatever they are taught, and language learning methods are most effective when you are a kid. The brain cells are enabled to get the things easily regarding the language learning. So, they can remember the rules and other related issues to learn a language. In English language, it is difficult to some extent to learn it as the learners cannot remember the grammar issues, but in the case of the children, they can easily memorize the rules. Sometimes when they memorize, they try to apply the rules in their real life from the memorization, and thus they learn how to use a language in the practical situations. So, I think when the children are of 6 or 7 years old, they should be sent to learn the English language. How will translation and interpretation develop in the future? In future, the development of translation and interpretation may experience a change to some extent. Currently, people translate and interpret languages using their own senses, skills, and command over the language. But with the change of technology, someday almost all the languages of the world will be available on the internet, and then I think the auto translation will be available. Though some of the languages are available on the internet and auto-translation is available, I think in future it will be easier comparing the current days. Translation or interpretation will not take so much labor and efforts as it is required today. Moreover, the quality of the translated copies will be more benefiting for the users. They would be able to use the copies immediately without any corrections or amendments. Currently, when the translations are done with the automated software or services, they cannot provide the perfect copy and the users need to amend the copies accordingly after their needs. But in future, I believe, it will be changed entirely. Education and ideas. Some people think that education should be about memorizing the important ideas of the past. Do you agree or disagree? Why? Well, in fact, cannot agree with this statement. To me, education has a different meaning. It does not mean that I should only memorize the idea and pour them on the exam scripts. I firmly believe that mere reading is not the way to learn or be educated. It should be comprehended by heart. There are some people who are on the view that they should memorize the past events and the true education refers to reply the questions on the Viva board. But I think this is a misconception about education. Have you ever thought that the memorized texts or ideas about past will be of any use in your life after passing the course? Simply the answer is no. You cannot use the memorized ideas in your practical life. Let's take a simple example. When you memorize something, you do it to get an immediate result and in most of the cases, it is all about passing the exam and you forget the ideas when the exam is over. But there are some past ideas or past event which we cannot forget until our death. Why? Because we do not memorize them, we remember the events and take them to our heart. Simply, if I ask you to quote from a rhyme that you memorized in your childhood, it would be nearly impossible for you to instantly reply because you need to remember the poem and it may happen that you are unable to remember the entire lines. So, how it happened? It happened for the memorization. The fact is similar about memorizing past ideas. You cannot expect to remember the past ideas when they are not necessary. But if you learn those by heart, you will never forget them. Thereby, I think this is better to learn anything from heart. Memorization is the way to destroy the intelligence. It is, thus, highly imperative to avoid memorization of ideas, events or texts. Should education encourage students to develop and share their own ideas? It should be the top priority for education to inspire students to share their respective ideas about any specific things or issues. Education, I think and believe, is a participatory process. When the teachers will offer lectures on the classes, they intend the students should learn from the lectures. With due respect, I would like to say that the teachers most of the times actually do not investigate if the students have learned the lessons or not. In such circumstances, a large portion of the students remains unaware of the lessons and topics discussed in the class. In a class, the types of students are not the same and intelligence level of them also differs. So, they should be allowed to express their own ideas and feelings over any specific issue. The texts should not be imposed on them. If imposed, they will start cramming before the examination. It is my private opinion that education should encourage the students to express their own imaginations or ideas. Accordingly, amendments should be made. As they are young, naturally their ideas and imaginations may contain loopholes and it is the responsibility of education to amend the weakness and make the ideas perfect. Unless the ideas are allowed to be expressed, the students will be unable to shine in their practical life. How do you think teachers could help students to develop and share their own ideas? Well, teachers are considered as the maker of a nation. They are enriched with knowledge and skills and without them, not a single student can shine in life. So, it is a duty for the teachers to help the students in developing newer ideas. Most of the cases, the educational institutions disallow student to interfere during a lecture. But it should not be done. When the students interfere during the lecture, it should be understood that he want to share or express something important. So, I think asking during the lecture should be encouraged. The teachers can play the greatest role here. When they will answer the queries, it will create a path to spread the knowledge among the students. To be more practical with the issue, the teachers could also ask them to write their own ideas and share those with the class. When the sharing will be done, some newer aspects will be discovered which may appear helpful for the students. Besides, when the sharing will be done regularly, the remaining students will try to express their own ideas as well with the class to get some positive feedback. So, gradually when the entire class will start sharing their ideas, feelings and feedback, the ideas will be stronger and it will help the students to move ahead with a fresh vigor. Should employers encourage their workers to have new ideas about improving the company? Why? Yes, I will agree here as well about the idea exercising issue. Often it appears that there are some ideas which are too usual but have never been seen before as those were not implemented. So, the ideas make us amazed. But if there were chances to exercise about ideas, we could have seen more and more unique and special ideas in every sector. Usually, in the workplaces, the employees are not allowed to express their ideas and opinions over any issues when the boss is present. In general, they are to abide by the orders from the higher authority or from the boss. So, they do not have the option to express their ideas which could be the better one than the authorized idea. So, the employers should encourage their employees more to share the ideas about any specific product. By this way, two positive events will take place. Firstly, the authority will have some better ideas, and secondly, the employees will start owning the organization, which will be effective for the advancement of the authority. Besides, the consumers will also start enjoying some newer products by dint of the innovative ideas of the employees. So, it appears that everyone related to the organization directly or indirectly is benefited from several aspects. Often the ideas become unique and thus the organizations do not need to hire any external consult over the issue, which saves a huge cost. For all those reasons, I think the employers should allow their employees to share their ideas and thoughts about the company's development. Do you think people sometimes dislike ideas just because they are new? Why? Well, it is very difficult to go deep into the human psychology. Often it is seen that some of the people dislike your ideas though the idea is far better than theirs. Why do such events happen? The question is simple but the answer is too complex to comprehend. When people see that someone is performing better from them in any aspects, they feel a sense of jealousy. Consequently, they start disliking the ideas. Sometimes they show excuses that the ideas are now, but it necessarily does not mean that the ideas would not shine. If we consider past events and history, we will find that a good number of inventions have been made based on new ideas. Many people have gained name and fame based on the implementation of the ideas. So, it is entirely unexpected to ignore the new ideas with the thought that they are ineffective. Rather, in some cases, the newer ideas could bring revolution. If we consider the use of the Internet, can we remember how it began? It was the initiative to connect a few universities for internal communication, and the idea was newer at that age. But gradually, the Internet has occupied everything and we cannot do without a single moment. What is more difficult, having new ideas or putting them into practice? Which is more important for a successful company? It is, in fact, difficult to put the new ideas into practice. Yes, it is tough to invent new ideas and a lot of labors are required to develop the idea. The idea makers need to concentrate on the issue and especially focus on the problems and bring out the solutions. But, the real troubles begin when the ideas are to be materialized. When it is about to materialize the ideas, the harsh realities appear before us. Many unwanted events take place and sometimes it becomes difficult to implement the ideas. Among the many unexpected events, people commonly experienced the issues like resource limitations, failure to meet deadlines or fear of being rejected by the targeted people, etc. When people start putting the ideas into practice, often it is tougher to adjust with. The practices seem unusual in the beginning, and when once the people are habituated, everything becomes as usual. But the adjustment process takes time. Besides, when people are to practice newer things, they, in fact, cannot keep pace with the change, start disliking that and finally reject the ideas. But, if the ideas could be presented in some tricky and useful manners, I think that will sustain. The hands which are behind making the ideas into practice, usually work their best so that the idea could be established. Therefore, inventing ideas is tough, but I think implementing the ideas on real life is tougher. Education and competition. Why do you think some school teachers use competitions as class activities? This is an interesting question for me, as I am a school teacher. I think most of the time the teachers use different techniques to hold the attention of the students. Sometimes competitions are also arranged as part of the technique to attract the students in their studies. The most important cause behind the completion is to inspire the students to learn their own lessons. It is natural that the students lack maturity and cannot determine the good or evil things for them. So, when they see someone is moving ahead, they try to follow the student, want to be like him or her. It helps to grow a competitive mentality among the other students. When the competition begins, all of the students try to beat the others in a healthy environment. Moreover, I think competitions make the studies easier for the students and they set a goal to be achieved. Do you think it is a good idea to give prizes to children who do well at school? Why? I actually do not agree with this idea of giving prizes at school for a better result of the children. Education is the process of being enlightened through some formal procedures, and passing the examination with the highest grades should not be the aim of true education. When a boy or girl receives an award for a good result in the study, definitely this is encouraging for them. But if the trend goes on, the students will study for passing the exam with higher marks than others so that they could win the prizes. Besides, there are chances that they could follow unfair means in the exams to have a better result than the others, and unfortunately, the number of such events is not few. So, I do not believe that providing prizes only for a good result is never a good idea. Rather, the prize could be awarded by evaluating their overall real-life performances in different situations. Would you say that schools for young children have become more or less competitive since you were that age? Why? Well, the competition was one of the key elements for our inspiration when we were kids, but now I do not see any competition among the students. Most of the students come to school as it is a part of their daily routine. They are mostly involved with their virtual world, and study is like a bitter medication for them. They just want to pass the courses and get out of the school boundary. The absence of competition has not appeared overnight, rather it took several years to appear. This is the age of modernism, and the kids are getting involved with the virtual world even before they pass their primary level. They love to chat on the social networking websites instead of studying, and even some of them use the networking sites during the class hours. Moreover, due to the digital education system, most of the academic contents are available on the internet, and they do not get in touch of the books as they have alternative reading materials. In my days, we had to study books and had a competition over reading different books. There are no such competitions found at all. For all these reasons, I think the competitions have been reduced since my early days. What are the advantages and disadvantages of intensive training for young sports people? There is a saying that when something is young, you can shape that after your needs. So, when it is about training the young sports people, definitely there are some advantages. The first and important advantage of intensive training is that they would be able to undergo any difficult situations during their respective sporting events. Additionally, an intensive training is able to remove nearly all the weakness of the young sports people. Often the young sports people suffer injuries for some minor issues, and if they have intensive training, they will be able to overcome the injuries. It helps to make them more prepared and also raises their reflex, which is one of the important features behind their success. It greatly improves the psychology of the young sports people, boosts up the tolerance limit, and finally the chances for their success increases. But there are some disadvantages of intensive training on them. Firstly, often they are unable to undergo such a huge level of stress and may feel health disorders. The other disadvantage is that they do not want to continue the training for difficulties, and once they start the training, try escaping the sessions, which bear detrimental impacts on their career. Some people think that competition leads to a better performance from sports stars. Others think that it just makes players feel insecure. What is your opinion? Both the views appear correct to me. When a player or team wins, they are inspired to get in the competition again. On the other side, the loser team becomes disheartened. History is always written by the winners, and thus we see the reflection of their team spirit and better performance. But most of the time, the losing team emotions are hidden from us. Since they have lost the game, a sense of insecurity prevails on their mind, which casts a negative effect on their psychology. As a result, they fail in the other competitions. On the other hand, the winning team or the sports star is inspired from different quarters and usually performs better in the following competitions. It appears a kind of inequality to me. I think both the parties should be inspired after a competition. This is quite natural that a team or sports star may not perform the best always for many reasons. But it should not be considered that the sports star or the team has lost its competence. Thereby, both the winning and defeated parties should be encouraged equally, so that none of them could feel insecure or overjoyed. Do you think that it is possible to become too competitive in sports? In what way? Well, this is impossible to be too competitive in sports. There are quite a lot of reasons for not being too competitive. The first and the most important thing, in this case, is that if you want to be too competitive in sports, you are to lose your humanity. You have to be unkind to others, especially to your opposition. You have to behave heartless to the other competitors. But this is not possible for everyone to be inhumane with others. Moreover, it will cast a detrimental impact on your image. Your acceptance as a player will be limited. Competitions are held in a healthy sporting event, and if you win, you are to be considerate to others, or if you are the loser, you must have to accept that calmly. Negative reactions are undesired here. So, I do not think that there are chances to be too competitive in sports. Do you think it is important to do something with another person? Well, it depends on what are you doing. For example, if you are doing an individual assignment, it is necessary to do it on your own. If you have to do some group work, of course, it is essential to do it with another person. Generally, I believe that cooperation is a great skill that requires to do some activities with different people, which teach us how successfully work in a team. In today's highly competitive environment, it is essential to do something with another person, cooperate and work, or even play in a team. At the end of the day, it will increase the value of both. Is it important for children to have subjects in school that includes working with another person? Yes, obviously, it is necessary. We are living in the world, which includes many people. Do we want or we don't, but we have to be able to work with different people. It is a requirement at schools, at universities, and at work, and actually everywhere. At school, children start to learn their general skills, which they will apply in the future, and one of the most important skills is cooperation and work in a team. What subjects would those be? It could be literature, foreign language, where children can talk to each other and have a dialogue. Also, it could be physical activity subjects as well. Group assignment could be given almost in all subjects, including literature, history, physics, chemistry, arts, etc. How could businesses work together with schools or universities? Businesses, schools, or universities can cooperate together and help each other. For example, at school, teachers can observe the achievement of different students and can recommend to the businesses if they are looking for an employee. Universities and businesses can be helpful to each other in the same way. Most students are looking for a job, while many companies are looking for right employees. They can cooperate and help each other through, for example, organizing job opportunity events. How could wealthy countries help poor countries? I think there are different ways to help. One of them is to organize special organization that will help to some poor country. The employees and volunteers of this organization will assist local people by donating clothes, organizing free lunches, dinners for people who need help. Also, I think, it might be medical support. Wealthy country can send medicine to the poor countries. The wealthy countries can provide basic needs like education, treatment and shelter for the people of poor countries. They can take many infrastructure improvement related projects. They can provide research facilities and can open trade facilities to help the poor countries as well. Do you think children should be taught to save money from their childhood? Why? Yes, I think children should be taught to save money when they are young. I believe there are two reasons. Firstly, children can learn to respect their parents' hard work from saving money. When they understand the value of money, and the expenditures in the household, they could appreciate more about the life that their parents have provided for them. Secondly, saving money is a great way to learn how to be independent, frugal and responsible. Children who learn to save money from their early ages often become more stable in their personal money management and possess positive attitude about investing money rather than spending it all. Should parents buy everything their child asks for? Why? Absolutely not. Firstly, if children have always had what they want, they would take everything for granted. It will affect their life when they grow up because as adults, we can't just ask for anything that we want. Secondly, just like I have said in the previous question, children have to learn their independence by saving up for something they want rather than being provided everything they want. Is it easy for you to save money? No, I don't think it could possibly be easy for anyone to save money, especially in these days when the living cost is very significant. Personally, I am studying full-time and working part-time, so at this stage, I could not save up any money at all, but I have plans to save money when I work full-time. Because I am a very well-organized person, and also not interested in luxury stuff, so it would not be too hard for me to save money. Do people in the countryside have different shopping attitude than people in a city? Why? Well, I am not sure about Australia, but in China, yes, it would be quite different in terms of what they shop, why they shop and how they shop. Residents in the countryside are generally poorer than the people who live in the city, so they have less consuming power. They would shop less frequently and the majority purchases will be necessities. Also, because the internet and delivery limitations in the countryside, people tend to go to shops rather than shopping online like many people in the city do. I'd just like to ask you some questions about your hometown or city. Is it easy to work in that job? A definite no, this job has never been easy nor will be, as there are no definite protocols to help you all the time during your job. It is basically your conscience and presence of mind, your gut feelings, daring attitude that are gonna help you come out of it. Not many people would dare to get engaged in such jobs. It requires utmost passion and mentality to embrace the unknown and challenges. All you can expect from this job is the unexpected. Are many people working nowadays in that field? Not much, but yes, one could easily find many amateur explorers, on YouTube and all. I never heard of any schools or institution for studying such skills or people given training for an explorer job. Many are into this as part-timers or they see it as a leisure or hobby, but as a mainstream profession on exploring, no, seldom would you find it, at least in my country. Discussion. What is the most common way to get a job now? You must have a university degree with good result and also relevant job experience to apply for a nice job in my country. It is very common among young generations to apply online through the job portals where employers have submitted their recruitment details. For government job, one has to apply for an exam, and after passing it, he can get enrolled in such government job. There is a huge competition in this exam though. For the competent job seekers, common way to get a job would be to go online searching it, and then apply for it. If you are selected for the interview, the job is yours. Sometimes the influence and reputed contact person might become helpful, while nowadays social media like LinkedIn and Facebook has also become platforms for new job seekers. What do you do to find a job in your country? It depends on the place you stay and the type of organizations you are applying to. In village areas, newspaper advertisements, local government employment exchanges and bulleting are the way of knowing about a job circular, and people there rely on these media to apply for a job. In urban areas, as mentioned before, it's basically newspaper, internet, social media etc. are the way to knowing about and applying for jobs. The interview of any job is the main criteria for ensuring a job. Most of the private companies decide the deserving candidates for the jobs during the interview. If you can ensure a nice impression during the interview, you are assured to get a job if other criteria are fulfilled. Is it easy to find a job in your country? Why? India, being one of the thickly populated countries, does not offer a very flexibility to get a job. It's definitely not easy to find a job unless you have really impressive academic and job qualification. Or maybe sometimes enough contacts. Yes, finding a job is not that easy in India as the competition is pretty high. It is not unlikely that for a single job opening more than thousands of candidates compete. This is the reality of our job sector. How do schools support students to help them select the job they like? Some schools provide vocational training in the subject of interest to students, nevertheless other schools they just train students with the formal education. So on an average, most of the schools in my country prepare students academically, and jobs are not the main concern of their studies. But yes, there are few schools, especially modern school, who pay much attention to future job aspects of the students by ensuring necessary amendment on the syllabus, providing necessary training and welcoming prospective employers to visit them often. What are the improvements that schools must have to identify talents of students? I would recommend that schools should take more surprise tests outside the academic lessons to find out who are doing better. The school authority should also have a rich lab, playground, library with numerous books and other facilities to let the students choose which activities they are good at. The teaching method should be more innovative, and the students should be allowed to present their opinions on how teachers should teach better. Apart from that, the school's authority must allocate a big budget to foster the talents the students might have. For instance, the school should find out which students have certain talents in singing, painting etc. Then they should be provided with special classes and training to bring out the best among those students. Finally, a creative and talented teacher can help a lot to identify talents of students. So the school should encourage more creative and innovative teachers to join their team. Are sports necessary in schools? Why? Definitely sports should be necessary parts. Every student should remain physically fit and should find something interesting to do at school. Sports give the opportunity to remain fit and healthy, remove stress, gives opportunity to make friends, and also let students do something else from studying. Are sports competitions necessary in schools? Yes, I think so. The competitive sports would inspire students to do even better. Some friendly competitions in sports also help to attract more students to grow their interests in sports. Inter-school sports facility should be encouraged, and that would be beneficial to maintain good health.